welcome to the Paddlesports workouts. This is our second week and I'm going to give you some more moves, some more sets and some more variety into our workouts this time. Hope you enjoyed the first week. If that first week is still relatively challenging or just pushing you a little bit too hard, just repeat that week. You don't have to move on to this week. Just try that next week again and you can do that for the next 6 to 10 weeks if you like. This week we're just going to move things on a little bit, but I want people to take that at their own pace. This time, instead of doing 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, what we're going to do is we're going to do sets of 12, up to 12 repetitions. And the reason we're trying to work up to 12 is because we're just trying to build that kind of strength, endurance side of things, that capacity to work a little bit harder, but at the same time working towards building a little bit of muscle, building that extra strength as well. So we're trying to incorporate quite a few things into a workout here. So I'm going to take you through some more core moves to start with, kind of I think 4 or 5 moves I'm going to go through now that you can loop through again. So do 12, switch to the next one for 12, switch to the next one for 12, have a few minute break, and I'm going to talk to you about some ideas for the intermission, the little break that we have as well. Again, these are all going to be paddling specific and I'll try and contextualise these as we go to help people understand why we might be doing these. So, first move, here we go again. We're back down onto the floor. We're going to have our feet planted. This one's going to be all about our rotational ability in the boat. So if you think about forward paddling, a lot of the time, no matter which craft we're in or on, it involves a lot of rotation. So our abdominal muscles are a massive, massive part of that. So obviously our legs do a lot of that work in some of the craft, but a lot of it comes from our core. So this move, I'll show you from the side, then I'll show you from the front. I'm going to take my right elbow over my left knee and straighten my arms. Then the first part of the move, I'm going to come back to my fingertips, take my hands across to the opposite knee and come back up and round. Trying to keep this as up as I can. I don't want to be slouching. So then it goes back from left knee, left elbow over right knee, comes back and up. And we're just going to keep arcing through that. So I call this an arcing crunch. Other people, you'll see it named as maybe some other things as well. So from the front, just come forward. I'm going to take my feet are about hip width apart, and I'm going to take my opposite elbow, opposite knee, back to my fingertips, back up and over to the opposite knee. And I'm just going to keep working through that. I'm going to do 12 of those. So just to sort the rep out, this is a start of 1 rep. That's 1 rep. 2, 3, and so on. Keep it nice and slow. Maybe just keep it as about a sort of 3 to 4 second maneuver so that we get plenty of time under tension, which is going to work us a little bit harder. Keep the breathing, but more importantly, keep that posture up so we keep this shape open, which also helps us keep a nice flat back or neutral spine, people call that as well. That's move 1. The second move in this core strength session. This one we're going to come down onto our back. We're going to bring our legs up into the air. We don't need to bring them all the way up, just up into the air, but so we've got a little bit of tension here, knees bent. And then all we're going to do now is we're going to reach up to get towards our shins or even our toes. And back down. So we're crunching up and we're almost taking each segment of our 6-pack. We've all got one, some are just hidden. And we're going to work our way up and crunch up into it. I'm trying not to just lead with my head, I'm trying to just crunch up and down. Nice and slow. Quite a hard move, this one. We're not going to be kind of folding up in half, but we're just putting that front of the abs in a really stressed position, so it's going to work really hard. This one's really, really good for all the white water boaters out there, freestyle paddlers. These front abs are the ones that stop us or help us to avoid being pushed back. So when we're landing, we're dropping off waterfalls, we're trying to keep good posture, we're not ending up flailing back. We're surfing a wave, we're not letting the boat accelerate out from underneath us. We can engage this because it's going to be strong, we can stay with it. Whether that's freestyle, whether that's performing a loop, not ending up on the back of the boat. I got asked about that this morning, so that we don't end up with this big kind of, as we come out of a loop, arch back, which is in quite a vulnerable position. By having a good strong frontal abs or our main abdominal muscles, that will help us stop getting left behind by the rest of our body basically, and putting us in quite a prone position. So this one's really good for all of that. It's also good for SUP and canoe as always, because we're all using the core, but they're just some examples of how you make it, why you should be doing this. It's a great move. Enjoy that one. Another set of 12. For the next move in the core workout, what we're going to do now is we're going to start to look at our lower back and our glutes in this session. So the lower back, again, is really, really important for maintaining posture, but the stronger our lower back is, the less chance we have of injuring it. So whether that's people hitting off waterfalls, freestyle paddlers, stand-up paddleboarders, being stood all day, making sure we're not slouching, having good kind of lower back muscles and posterior muscles is really going to help us. Our glutes get massively involved with way more than we think with all disciplines of paddle sports as well. So we're going to be working on those. So this move, there's a few different options on this one. So we can come down onto our front, and what I can do to start with is just gently raising off the floor. So I'm not pressing down, I can have my hands hovering, and I'm just going to gently raise and lower. Raise and lower. Now that one's gonna, if you go at it too fast, you'll start to get a bit of pain in the back. So keep it nice and slow and keep it really limited to within your own range of movement, but you will feel that tire quite quickly. Slightly more difficult or harder version of that is again to bring our hands up, but we're going to raise our upper body and raise our legs and back down. And we're going to try and do that at the same time. Nice and slow, nice and controlled. Again, you'll notice this one, you start to engage your glutes, so your big butt muscles. They get worked in this one, and that's really good because our glutes are linked to our legs and our glutes are linked to our lower backs, so they're massively involved. So this one again, 12 reps of whichever version you want to do, whether it's just the upper body, if you're feeling strong both ends, 12 reps, off you go. The next move we're going to work on is, again, it's going to work on lower back and our glutes, just to give those a bit of a workout. They're really neglected, so we're going to give those a shot. There's going to be a few versions of this, so people can work through it at their own time and own pace. So to start with, I'm going to show the slightly easier versions. I'm going to lie on my back, my knees and feet are in line and just about hip width apart. I'm just going to bring my feet up a little bit closer this time. And for added stability, I'm just going to put my hands out to the sides in either direction. And then all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to squeeze my glutes and push my hips towards the ceiling. And relax. Push and relax. And what you'll notice is you're almost squeezing your glutes to help encourage that. If you're not, that's what you need to be doing, so squeezing those glutes up. If you want a slightly harder version, bring your hands up in front so we gain a little bit of less stability from the floor and challenge us a bit more. So we're just going to come up and down and up and down. If we want more challenge, we can go for a single leg version. So again, one leg's going to extend, this leg's going to stay where it was, and pushing through. This one you'll notice that starts to bring in your hamstring a little bit, so a bit of leg strengthening. So really good, certainly if you use SUP paddlers. Really good. We can do reps on each side. We can alternate if we want. We can just keep swapping, however you want to do it, whether you want to do 12 one side, 12 the other, 6 one side, doesn't matter. And we're just going to keep working our way through. I quite like swapping legs on this one, and we're just going to keep it moving through. So great session. That session there is going to work front of abs, it's going to work side abs, it's going to work our glutes, it's going to work our lower back. Again, it's going to help us stay nice and strong in the boat or on the board. It's going to increase our ability to create force, generate force, which means if we're trying to go fast or we're trying to just get more out of each stroke, this is going to be better for that. But again, it's going to really help us stop into claps if we're collapsing to the sides, or it's going to help us, I call this being proactively reactive, where the boat or the board moves and I can do the right thing about it, yeah, because I've got control with the core, particularly in the sides, front and back, so that I'm not getting thrown around. I'm being proactively reactive, if that makes sense. So enjoy that session, take a break, work your way through it, then take a few minutes in between, and we'll talk about some activities for in the break. Enjoy the session. So part 2 of today's, or this week's strength session, we've just looked at core. We're now going to move into a bit of upper body, and the bit we're going to really look at is our shoulders, our pecs, our deltoids, and just really strengthen those. So just as a bit of contextualization, any forward stroke, whether it's in kayak, canoe or sup, will involve a lot of the shoulder, certainly that frontal shoulder and the pec. So we're going to work quite hard on that. It's also going to work quite a lot into our tricep and our deltoid as well. So first part of this, I'm going to give you some exercises that are going to really work this sort of front shoulder into chest part. Really essential again for stability in the shoulder, so injury prevention, as well as just being able to produce that little bit more force per stroke. So it's a good bang for your buck, I guess, on this one. So we'll start with some easy versions. I've got just a bench from the gym here, but you can do this on a chair, you can do it on a sofa, you can even do it on the end of your bed. I would suggest doing it on the base part of the bed rather than the mattress bit, because that would just absorb underneath, actually might make it a bit harder. So just something sturdy that you can just put a little bit of body weight onto. So the shape I'm looking at for the basic kind of press up or push up is this kind of arrow shape coming down from my head and down into my upper arm. So I'm looking at this shape, and my hands roughly in line with my shoulders. I don't want them too high up or too low down for this first bit. So it's this kind of shape we want. I'm going to still maintain this try and open chest. I'm not going to let it hunch in here. So I'm going to try and keep this all nice and open and really start to engage the muscles of the shoulder and the pecs as well. So the easy version to start with, easy is always relative, isn't it? So if you're new to this, you probably go, that's not easy. But we'll work at our own pace. So find that position. I'm just going to come up to the bench and move my knees back a little bit, tucking my toes out of the way. And then all I'm going to do is keep that chest open. I'm going to lower to the bench and press back away from the bench again. Lower to the bench, press back to the bench. The further I take my knees back, adds a little bit more weight to it, adds a little bit more load, adds a little bit more difficulty. The closer I come in, then I can take most of the load off. So I can make it as hard or as easy as I like, which is a really nice way of getting into doing press-ups. So if that's about the right level for you, set of 12, remember keep this open, keep these hands in this nice position here, don't let them come wandering off. And we're trying to get even pressure through each arm, Enjoy. The next ones are going to be without the bench, so a bit more body weight involved. So for the next bit of this strength workout, I've moved the bench out of the way. I'm going to use as much body weight as I can. So we're going to go for a medium version of the press up now. So we just had the easier ones. This is one for people who are like, that's too easy, but a full press up's too hard. So I'm going to just show you some options for starting to build towards full press ups. And then I'm going to give you some options to make press ups much harder or more challenging for those that need that as well. So again, I'm going to try and keep this position, this shape here, which again is trying to get this almost like arrowhead, which comes down from my head, taps my shoulder and down my arm. I don't want to be too wide and I don't want to be too narrow at this stage. So to start building up to a press up and make that achievable, what I'm going to do is focus on the eccentric phase, so the lowering phase of the press. I'm going to take my hands just on this yoga mat, I'm just going to take them just past shoulder width, and I'm going to find that shape. I'm going to come up into that long arm plank position that we've done, and all I'm going to do now is lower down as slowly and as controlled as I can. Once I hit the floor, come back up on my knees to get back up. I could just start lowering down slowly from my knees if that's too hard. So again, we're going to just do the lowering phase, nicely under control, come back up via my knees. And I can rest in between if that's quite hard. but I will start to feel it across my pec and across my sort of the front of my deltoid here as I press, and I'll probably start feeling into the tricep as well. Triceps are a really important part of paddle sport. So that's a really nice way of getting into doing press ups. Once you've done quite a few weeks of this, you'll suddenly, or even just days of this, you'll suddenly find that you start to be able to come back up again. So what I can do is I can do the lower down, just touch my knees to press back up. So I'm just taking a little bit of the load out of it with each repetition, with each progression. So a lot of people find press ups really challenging. It's because they are, but we can make them achievable. So try those, work your way through them. 12. You might start off with some full lowers, and then have to get your knees in later. Just mix it up. But as long as you're challenging yourself, you will get stronger. They will become easier. Long term, you'll find that you've got that extra bit of power, that better posture in the boat. It's all going to be good. Enjoy those. For those of you who want a bit more challenge to your press ups and are pretty happy with the standard kind of up down press up, we're going to start now to work the muscle groups, the maneuver through a different range of movement and from some different challenges. So the first one we're going to do is I'm going to keep this arrowhead shape. I'm just going to take my hands out a little bit wider. This is just going to put a little bit more load into the chest, so into the pectoral muscles. Again, they're really key part of any forward stroke because these control that top hand. Really, really important, yeah? And because they attach into the shoulder, they're a really important part of that whole shoulder injury prevention, the shoulder stability. So I'm going to go a little bit wider on this one, so I'll show you this one from the front. And again, I'm just going to keep the tempo just nice and controlled. I'm not slapping into the floor, and I'm not kind of arching to get back up. I'm trying to keep a nice tempo up and down. So this one's a little bit wider, still with that arrow shape, and down. And straight away, you'll notice that puts a little bit more pressure into the chest. So from there, what I can do is gradually work my way in. So I can start wide, come nice and narrow. Now, so the narrower ones, they do the opposite to the wide. They start to work, they're still working a bit of the pec, but they definitely start to work the tricep a lot more. So the muscle at the back of the arm and the front of the deltoid quite a lot. So just a different part of the muscle group, and a different way of working it. So I'll do it from the side this time, just so you can see how that works. I'm making sure my hands are still kind of under my shoulders, but I've lost the arrow shape now. I've come right in narrow. If you've got any sort of shoulder pain or kind of weakness in the shoulders, just avoid this one, because this one will put a little bit of extra load through the shoulder. So coming in narrower on the mat this time. Again, taking long arm plank, I'm coming down and back. And from there, what I can do is I can really mess around with my session. I can really start with nice and wide. I can do 12, 12, 12, and then 12, 12, 12, and just work it back in and out and really progress things on with my press up. Whenever I start getting too tired, feel free to just drop your knees to the floor to finish your set. So we're always, we're getting the most out of it. So even if I'm hanging in there on that last one and can't get back up, I can just drop my knees to finish the set. And that's a really good mentality to get into, is finding a way to keep it going without going, oh, I can't do it. Find a way to do it by dropping the knees and taking a bit of the load off. So enjoy this one. That's the front of the pecs and shoulders. The next exercise is going to start to work the back of the shoulders, the back of the deltoid as well. Let's do it. So last couple of exercises for our upper body strength session for this week. And we're going to start to look at, like I said, at the shoulder, the back of the shoulder, and just around the whole back, posterior type muscles as well. So for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to do something called a fly. So we're going to come with our feet about hip width apart, going to bend my knees and just going to bend forward. So from the side, I'm trying to keep this back nice and straight. Again, this is a really common shape that we want. We don't want this collapsing. So I'm going to come into here, and then the movement is going to be my arms coming out to the sides. My arms coming out to the sides. And you might find that just your own body weight, the weight of your own arms, is enough. And I'm trying to squeeze my shoulder blades together at the top of this move. So I'm really trying to get a bit of a squeeze there, and we'll start to engage the trapezius, the lats, the deltoids, lots of different parts of it. If that's too easy, and I'm sure a lot of people will find it too easy, then we can start to add some simple weight to it. So this is basically a kilo of water in each hand, and I can just take that position and bring it out and back. I'm trying to keep it nice and controlled. I shouldn't be flapping like a bird, just nice and controlled, out and back. I can use bigger water bottles if I need to. I could go down to baked bean tins, I could go to half-baked bean tins, whatever seems to work for me. So for the last part of this workout, we're going to be starting to look at the middle deltoid, front deltoid, bit of the front pec, and a little bit of trapezius as well. So this one, we're just going to bring our feet together, hands down by our sides, and what we're going to do this time is we're going to do arm raises, arms down. And then we're going to push our hands together and raise our hands above our head and down. We're going to go out and back, out and back. What I'm trying not to do is go too high overhead and start to impinge on the shoulder. It shouldn't give you any pain at all, this. There might be a bit of muscle fatigue, so a bit achy, but absolutely no type painful manoeuvre. And as I come forward here, I'm trying not to squeeze that way. I'm trying to keep this open again and trying to lift all the way up and down. So I can just keep it nicely. I'm keeping myself upright, up and down. The reason I'm pushing my hands together, I'm trying to engage a little bit of the pec and the deltoid just as we push up and through. Again, like the first one, if that's not enough weight and I need a bit of extra resistance, I can take some water bottles. Some of you might have dumbbells at home, whatever you've got. You can even use bricks out of the garden. And all we're going to do is take my water bottles out to the side and down, and then push them together and raise. Out to the side, push them together, and I can work through that. Again, I can challenge it by changing the pace and the tempo that I do this at. So I can keep it nice and slow. I can add fast ups and slow downs, fast up and slow downs, just to keep messing with it, to keep challenging myself. And part of the reason I do that is to keep it interesting as well. None of us really want to be inside at the moment exercising, we want to be out on the water. So run through those, get them in your head, put in as many circuits as you can, and enjoy that session. So whilst we're in between sets, we can start to challenge ourselves a little bit more. I don't really like to get bored during between sets or just sit doing nothing. So when I'm in the gym, I tend to use the dartboard. I'm terrible at darts, but the point is, whilst I'm out of breath and under fatigue, I'm trying to make decisions and do something that involves a little bit more concentration. I tend to use left hand, right hand, which can get quite exciting in here at times. That just challenges me in a different way whilst I'm out of breath and recovering before the next set. You can throw pieces of paper into a bin, left hand, right hand. Some people I know whilst they're recovering will do something like a Sudoku puzzle, which I think is witchcraft to be able to do that in the first place, let alone under fatigue. But something that just stretches your mind, takes your mind off the hurt that you've just put yourself through, but challenges you in a different way. Maybe something that makes you really make decisions under a bit of pressure, like Sudoku or a crossword, or something that just challenges kind of your fine motor control and concentration. Throw something in there, keep it exciting, it'll certainly liven up your sessions. Enjoy those. It's week 2, it's our second cardio session. For this, you're just going to need a little bit of space, maybe a little bit of headroom, but somewhere you can just swing your arms and legs about. I'm going to set a timer on my phone for 30 seconds. And what I'm going to do is do 30 seconds of an exercise, straight into 30 seconds of another exercise, another exercise, another exercise. Once I've gone through all 4, maybe 5 exercises, we'll see where we get to. It's then over to you to do as many sets as you fancy. So remember, 1 to 10, 1 on the sofa, 10 lying on the floor. Can't possibly imagine working any harder. We want to be getting up into that 7, 8, 9. Feel free to go to 10 if you feel ready for it. If you're still happier further down, go for that, but just make sure you're challenging yourself. So this is a chance to put on some banging tunes. I won't ruin your day by putting mine on. I'm going to talk you through the moves. So the first move is going to be a nice simple, just jog on the spot. Just keep it nice and light, kind of bouncing off your toes. Just 30 seconds just to get us in the mood, start visualising the session, start Get ready to accept a little bit of discomfort, get your arms involved, get yourselves going. So 30 seconds of just jogging on the spot. We're then going to go to 30 seconds of star jumps. After 30 seconds of star jumps, we're just going to mess with our minds. We're going to put some coordination stuff in. So we're going to stick with star jumps, but instead of doing arms out, legs out, we're going to switch it to 30 seconds of brain taxing star jumps. Once we've done that, we're going to come down into our squat again. 30 seconds of squatting. Remember, when we're doing it, we're trying to be able to see our knees throughout, so our knees don't go in front of our toes. See our toes throughout, so our knees don't go in front of our toes. So we're squatting down. Here, 30 seconds. 30 seconds of squatting, back to some running, just to keep us nice and energized, keep that heart rate up, keep us moving. Keep that working, just keep a nice gentle jog, keep us going. Next move's coming up. So after our jog, we're going to come down onto the floor. We're going to come into, I call this is like a boat position here, but we're just going to lift our feet up off the floor, find that balance point. And then what we're going to try and do now is just 30 seconds. I'm coming back and back up for 30 seconds. Giving our abs a bit of a workout here. It'll work your quads, it'll work your hip flexors. Getting in there, getting stuck in with those. 30 seconds of those. Next one we're going to do is something called candlesticks. Candlesticks again is going to work our abs, it's going to work our glutes, it's going to be quite a dynamic move. We're going to come down onto the mat, start seated, but then going to roll back, push our feet to the air and back. This one's really good for paddling. It involves that opening out of the hip. It's like another type of hip hinge, bit of coordination, but again it's just that big sort of global movement patterns that we're after. So these are really good. The candlestick, if you want, you can do a nice ornamental candle, put a little twist to it. By twisting at the hips, adds another dimension. 30 seconds of those. So we've just been working a bit of our abs, bit of our hips, bit of our quads. We're then going to come down onto the mat again for the favourite mountain climbers. 30 seconds, nice and fast. We're aiming again to keep that heart rate nice and high and put ourselves under that bit of fatigue. So once we've done those, we're then going to do some alternative to that. We're going to do in and back. Then we're going to go out to the side and back. Out to the other side and back. Middle, side, side, middle. Working through that, that's really going to get your heart rate up. 30 seconds of those. Enjoy that one. So that's our cardio workout for week 2. You can do 1 lap of that, you can do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 laps of that, as many as you like. Aim to complete this 3 to 5 times a week, if possible, and you will really start to notice in the weeks to come that everything just gets that bit easier. So if things start to get a bit easier, maybe work a bit faster during the workout, maybe do more sets, less rest in between. This is our second mobility session now, and we're going to look at some forward bends. We're going to look at some quads, some glute stretches that are just going to help us get that better mobility around the boat or on a board. It's going to help us sit in positions with greater ease, which means we're going to need less stress, less energy drag on our bodies throughout. And again, it's going to help that kind of all-round fitness and injury prevention. So the first one we're going to look at is just a forward bend. So it's like a hip hinge, which is really essential. Even sat in a kayak, we're going to be in that position. Anything with our legs out straight is going to be really essential. So we're going to really be looking at stretching down through the lower back, glutes and hamstrings here. So we're going to take our feet about shoulder width apart, or just slightly in, maybe closer to hip width, but anywhere comfortable really. We're going to make sure we're centered over our feet, so we're not right up on the balls of our feet or on our heels, we're nice and centered. Slight bend in the knees, so soft knees, not locked out. And then all I'm going to do is keep my hands on my hips, and that's just going to help me, kind of encourage me to keep this shape, keeping a flat back. So I'm just going to stay here. I'm going to try and push my chest forward. And then all I'm going to do is literally just hip hinge to the point where I'm starting to feel discomfort down the back of my legs. As soon as I start feeling that discomfort, I'm just going to hold for 15 seconds. Longer if I fancy it, shorter if it's really uncomfortable. It shouldn't be pain, it should just be that slight stretch discomfort that we get. And then I'm going to ease back out of it. I'm going to shake my legs out, and I'm going to repeat that. And I'm going to repeat that 5 or 6 times throughout this session. So it's hands on the hips. The reason I like to have the hands at the hips is to stop me just slumping forward and rounding out my back. Just having my hips here, hands on my hips here, just helps that maintain that shape that I do keep talking about. So it's just hinging forward, trying to keep this back flat, and raising back up. So hold, go down, hold for 15 seconds upwards, as long as comfortable. Hold, keep breathing throughout, and return back up. So that's move 1. Second move in our mobility section is going to be looking into our hips, and in particular our hip flexors here. So this is great for, it's great for kayak, it's great for stand-up paddleboard, it's great for canoe. So again, it's another one that's really essential. The reason it's good for those is we put ourselves in some really odd positions in all these boats, and we expect our bodies to be able to sit there for quite a long time in some of them. So having just good mobility in here will just alleviate maybe some of that discomfort you get in the boats, on the boards or whatever, but it will lead to ease of mobility and ease of movement around the boat, on the board, but also just getting to the water. So things like portaging or inspecting rapids or getting over rocky shores, just having better mobility is going to really help anyway. So for this one, I'm just going to come up onto my knees. I'm going to bring one leg forward, so this time bringing my left foot forward and trailing this other knee. I'm keeping this shape, and all I'm going to do here is just gently push forward, keeping this up. So I should feel the stretch on this one on my right leg here. So I'm just going to push gently forward into the stretch. I'm not coming forward. As soon as I come into this forward position, I'm losing the stretch. So I need to keep up, keeping it up and just gently pushing forward. No bouncing into it, but just gently lower into a stretch, and I should feel it all the way down here. I'm not arcing back, I'm just trying to keep upright. Again, hold in 15 seconds to a minute, somewhere there will really start to make a difference. The longer we hold it, the quicker the adaptation is going to be. Our body will get used to it, and you'll feel like a real discomfort to start with, but the longer we stay here, the body starts to realise that it's okay to be here. You're not going to shock load it and put it under any kind of injury stress. So what I found there is just being here, it means I can go that little bit further already. So I can do that, and then to repeat on the other side, I'm just going to come back, opposite leg, so my right leg this time, gently lowering forward, keeping this shape. I can take the weight on my upper body on my knee if that makes me more comfortable. And again, I'm feeling that stress, this time down my left, through my left hip. There we go. Really nice move, really good for all of us, no matter what boat or board we're on. Enjoy that one. For our third mobility move, we're going to look at the outside of our hip and our glute, so the muscles in our bottom essentially. I'll do this one facing forward and sideways. So for this one, I'm going to take my right leg and I'm going to place it in line with the centre of my chest. So my right knee is in line with the centre of my chest, my left leg's extended behind me, and then all I'm doing is taking the weight here and lowering my body down. So my weight is over the centre of this knee. My hands are stopping me going forward, and I'm just lowering into that stretch. Show you at the side how to get into it. So I'm taking my right leg and then putting it across in between, straightening this next leg, my left leg, and lowering down. So the stretch I'm getting is all the way around here. So it feels quite a good stretch into my glute. And our glutes, I've said it before, they get really neglected, they get tight, they don't get exercised enough in our sports. So again, I can hold that, go for the other side, I'm going to straighten my right leg and my left leg across and lower down into it. Really nice glute stretch, really essential. Again, it's going to help us free up that lower body to help us move around. For our fourth mobility move today, we're going to look at our quads. And our quads, again, they tend to get quite tight, quite stiff, and this one's going to be really good for any open boaters out there who spend their time kneeling. When I'm coaching open boating, I get a lot of people going, oh, I can't sit on my knees for long. And it's not just a soreness from having your knees on the floor of the boat. A lot of the time it's a tightness in the quad that causes the soreness of the knee. So if we can try and free up the quads, we can make more mobility through the knee and make it easier. So I've got my feet flat to the floor here, my quads quite close together, so my legs close together. I'll do a front shot in a sec. What I'm going to do is take my hands around behind me just to support me, and then I'm just going to push my hips forward here. And when I do that, I start to really feel the stretch through my quads. You'll all feel it in slightly different places, just the way we put together. And I can come back down, let that kind of shake out for a second, and then come back into it. Again, holding anywhere 15 seconds to a minute, whatever I can cope with, and back down again. Really nice little mobility exercise for the quad there. The last one for mobility for this week, we're going to start to look at our hip, the inside of our hips here, the adductors that are going to be the ones that bring our knee up in contact with the boat, or just help us with hip stability. And all we're going to do for this one, keep ourselves nice upright, bring our feet together, and all I'm doing is letting the weight of my knees slowly lower to the floor. Some people you'll find can get way closer than I can. This is definitely one that I need to work on. The further in I bring my feet, the harder it is. Put my feet further away, and then if I bring myself forward, so just pushing my weight forward, that increases the stretch up through here as well. I can, if I'm thinking that's not really doing anything, just gently press through with my elbows into my knee as well, or if you can get there with your hand. I tend to just like to sit here and just gently move forward in this one. Again, it's another neglected bit. It gets really tight for kayakers. This one definitely tightens up because we're sat generally in this position all the time, something bracing here, so this is a great one to really help with that. So we've looked at forward bend, we've looked at our glutes, we've looked at our quads, we've looked at our inner thigh as well. So work through these. You can add them onto last week's mobility to give yourself, if you want to do a longer mobility workout each week, and just keep flowing through. There'll be more next week. Enjoy these.